Hi, welcome to Thread Talks. I'm Radhisha, Head of Marketing at Twinery, and today we're here with a product design and innovation guru and head at Silueta, Nadi. Thank you for joining us today.
Hi, Rads. Lovely to be here.
Thank you for joining us again. So let's get started with how did you get started at MAS and how long was it?
Wow. It's been 19 years now with MAS. So I started off, as you know, my background is design. When I finished uni and came down, that was in, I think, 2002. I started off as a trainee designer at what we call linear mass those days at MAS. And now linear mass is actually the split between intimates and active.
Okay.
So started off as a trainee designer, got in further down the line, got into technical design, then moved on to product development, which was maybe about 3.5 years down the line. Then I moved into innovation design, and here I am today.
Wow. Well, I'm excited to get into it. I hope you are too.
Absolutely, absolutely.
What has really drawn you to stay here? I mean, all these years, it's your second employer,
Yep.
right? And yeah, what's been that secret?
So I think it's always been the MS culture. I must say, within my 19 years, how MS has treated me, really believed in me, has made me who I am today. Professionally and personally, both has really brought me to this level. So that trust and faith that they had in me made me the best version of me, which I think also helped for me to really passionately give back, to contribute back to MS, to its growth as well. So I think purely the culture.
That's, I think, a dream for any person staying in an organization, absolutely, right? So what's your personal philosophy and about product creations and development? What is that philosophy that's really underlying for you?
Oh, I love product creation, right? Even before I got into this whole trade. So for me, the philosophy would be free, be passionate, enjoy it.
What do you mean by when you say be free? What do you mean by that?
Just have this amazing imagination. If we always work within a box or a frame, I feel you're limited, right? So when you're free and you have that freedom to just think wild, think big, and it's what I would call is imagination without boundaries, right? And that's what it is.
Love it. So how do you know that you were successful? And what's that benchmark of success for you?
Wow. And I must say, in my 19 years, I've had a few of those moments. I think when you've managed to really delight the end consumer, and that end consumer keeps repeatedly demanding for what you have created through years of purchasing that same product over and over again.
Amazing. And hopefully we will get into some of that as well, sure, a little later on. So how does the long-term sustainability affect your strategic decision-making or approach?
So I would say in terms of really understanding, to have a profitable, sustainable business, you to really listen to what the consumers are asking for, what are they demanding, understand what the market dynamics are, the volatilities, the moments that we, sudden moments that we kind of anticipate. So it's a lot of assumptions that we make. And of course, we fine-tune those assumptions along the journey, especially when we're trying to create a product strategy for the organization. And placing those bets that you have like a really strong gut feeling that will stay consistent, where there is more longevity of the idea. Place those bets in those categories, and that will bring growth for the organization.
Absolutely. And how important is sustainability in the entire process?
you're referring to product sustainability, I'm assuming, right?
I suppose the whole life cycle of it, the product in terms of sustainability for the business.
So if you look at today as a trend, so let me break it into two parts, right? If you look at what's really trending today or what's been demanded from our consumers and markets and brands and things like that, everything has to revolve around sustainability.
Yeah.
Circularity, what we kind of pick as a material, how we make the product, how we tell the story to the consumer, how do we educate the consumer about it, it all revolves around it. But still the basic essence of what clothing is still there. Make it a good fit, make it the ultimate comfort.
Right.
How can you break the boundaries of gender fluidity in product creation, right? So those are still there, but it all revolves around sustainability. So in that case, placing your bets on the right product will make your business sustainable as well, right?
Right.
So,
and timing.
absolutely. Timing is everything. Timing is everything.
Yeah. So what's your mindset when it comes to innovation? How do you really think about innovation? And how do you really foster that culture in your team, Adi?
I try hard to lead by example, but I think for me, innovation is about, you can't draw a line.
Yeah, of course.
You live it, right?
Yeah.
You're always thinking about it. No matter what you do, it might not be at work. It could be in the weirdest moments.
Yeah.
But you're constantly thinking about what's next. You're curious. You're just curious. It's curiosity, right? Innovation is purely curiosity. So I try and live by example to my team. Never be satisfied with what is out there.
Yeah.
Right? It's always about pushing boundaries. And what we do as an organization, especially within my product creation team, is we do a lot of talking, right? Bringing, I have a very, very diverse team, lots of different backgrounds. And we do a lot of brainstorming and talking. And everyone has that freedom to express what they think, right? There is no hierarchy. Who says what? Am I too scared to say that? That's not how innovation or that big idea comes. Everyone has that freedom of expression to really express, bring ideas to the table, say it in the most weirdest way, show the most weirdest thing. And that's what I really want to, create and kind of make that environment for the team.
Yeah, and what I love about what you say as a fellow weirdo is these weirdest moments, right? Can you describe such weird moment that you say when something hits or innovation hits at the weirdest moments?
It could be when you're, taking a shit. Who knows? I mean, I've had those moments of like, wow, in the toilet, you're...
Absolutely.
I think
there's
that's
research to prove this.
And it's like the best alone time, right?
Right.
That's because I have slightly older kids. I don't have a kid tapping at the door saying, Ami, are you coming out? Ami, are you coming out? So it's a really good alone time.
Right.
And you need alone time to sometimes, think. And I think... that's a good example where these weird ideas do pop out.
How important is it that us as apparel manufacturers really pay attention to the shifts in consumer mindsets? How important is that?
Very, very important. See, if we don't listen to the consumer, what they're saying, how they're reacting, how they're behaving, we're not going to stay relevant. Sure. If we don't stay relevant, we don't have a business, right?
Yeah.
So it's so important to listen to what our end consumer is demanding for, and what are they saying, what are they thinking. Really important to stay grounded and listen to what they say.
Absolutely. So when it comes to thoughts of really inclusive fit, how do you think they're changing the apparel space?
My favorite topic.
Yeah. Take your time.
So I'm just going to start off how brands do it today, okay?
Yeah, sure. Go for it.
Every single brand, whether it's intimate wear or sportswear, they have their approved fit model. Right? Every single...
And what does that mean?
So the brand has a particular body spec.
Right.
If the garment fits that body spec, the fit is approved.
Wow.
How crazy is that,
That's
right?
crazy. That's
like,
not
it's
inclusive
insane.
at all. Yeah.
It's absolutely insane.
Right.
So when we talk about inclusive fit,
Right.
if we can't, and we know the consumers are demanding for that, right? We have so many different body shapes, size, volumes to control, and that doesn't make any sense because that's not your audience. You're not your consumer audience.
Yeah.
It might be just one type of your consumer audience.
Right.
So how we pick our materials, how we design the product, what technology we use to enable this space is what we are all working on now, Reds.
Right.
So it really, really makes saying, you don't have to be that perfect angel body anymore, right? It doesn't have to be this absolutely toned athlete anymore.
Right.
You could be anything who you are. Like, you can be purely comfortable in your own skin, but the product will fit you right.
Right.
And a lot of the product solutions, technologies that we're even onboarding as an organization is revolving around solving that.
Amazing. Love that. So do you feel that the needle point is shifting in terms of demand from fit, style, durability to sustainability? Where do you really think we are? And where do you think we will be in the future?
So I think, like I said earlier, I think for consumers, fit is still important.
Yeah.
Comfort is still important. Durability for better longevity is important. But everything has to revolve around a sustainable product.
Sure.
So it is about attributes that really matter to the consumer, that creates the best experience, but also doing what is right by the planet.
Right.
So I think that's where the full, product ask demand is kind of moving towards.
Absolutely. It's like speaking right to the heart of it, right?
Absolutely. Spot on.
Yeah. So what kind of problems are you trying to solve with your team, and how will they change our business, our industry, and our lives?
So I'm just going to wheel back to the consumer a little bit.
Sure.
Today, if you take Gen Z, our largest audience, a little bit difficult to read the audience, right? Unlike a Gen X, a millennial, where it was very easy to read the consumer and do the right product, because what they said and how they behaved and how they purchased, it all just aligned really well.
Right.
If you take Gen Z, and I might be short for saying this, but and I'm sure it's a very similar sentiment for all the product creators around the world. So the consumer and also the buyers of brands have now become Gen Zs, right?
Right.
So what they say, what they post, what they blog about, what they, are just, standing up and shouting for. And when it comes to purchasing the product, pulls apart.
Right.
So it's a bit of a challenge to read the consumer today, but if we can really unlock that,
right,
and identify the Gen Z persona, I think using design, technology becomes a no-brainer.
Right.
But so the key thing is we need to understand the consumer, the persona, the behavior, the lifestyle, and then use these little attributes. So we're doing little things in the portfolio, trying to do focus group testing, just to make sure that we get it right with the focus group, because you don't want to take something that you perceive to be is what they're asking for,
of course,
but not really, when it comes to buying that product and experience the product, it might be something different. So those are a few things that we're testing out.
Right. So what you're saying is they stand for something. They're saying it, they're showing it in their profiles, but they're not paying the price for it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, we're seeing with some of the digital platforms that are really doing well in the US market, may not be the most ethical manufacturing, not the most socially responsible brands.
Right.
But their sell-through is unbelievable. So if they're having sales, it's obviously because the consumer is behaving and buying stuff from them, right? So it's a bit contradicting right now in terms of what we see, about the generation.
There's so much going on in the world today, right?
Yeah,
how do you just zap out anxiety? It doesn't work like that.
It doesn't work that way.
So what has been your biggest failure in the last year? And why do you think that happened?
I hate the word failure.
Yeah. We don't need to.
The
the biggest learning. There we go.
Learning.
The biggest learning last year. And why do you think that happened?
So it was a build up to maybe more than last year, right? Maybe beginning of this year,
Okay.
right? So at Silueta, we were doing a few product categories, but in 2018, we managed to really penetrate into the bralette business, and create a really solid product, which almost became the gold standard in that product category. And every single other brand, not the specific one that we were doing it for, was trying to duplicate that product. It was so good.
Wow.
The brand managed to expand it to a very larger audience in terms of from regular size, from petite to going to full figure, purely because how the product was being created, how it was fitting the consumers. Consumers absolutely loved it. Then came the pandemic. One good thing that came out of the pandemic, the bralette demand went really high,
absolutely.
right? Really, really high.
Yeah, absolutely.
So towards the latter part of maybe last year, we were doing almost like 650,000 units per month.
Wow.
In this particular category. Come early this year, markets open up. Consumers don't want bralettes anymore. They want a completely different wearer experience. Absolute dip.
Wow.
In the product category. So I think one of the things we as an organization we've learned is, how do you stay resilient? How do you anticipate if something is going to change? How do you react, and how do you create a backup for it?
Right.
Within 6 months, tough to react that fast, especially to have the backup product out in the market.
Wow.
We couldn't do it. We do have a backup version, which is maybe closer to a constructed bra, but still without any hardware.
Right.
Which is super comfortable, but the coverage is more towards a bra and not a bralette. That's doing really well.
Right.
We should have created that version for the US market as well. So it's a learning. It's
of
a learning.
Course. Yeah.
And we're trying to put all our efforts to bounce back.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the biggest challenges we've had, I think, maybe in the last 6 months.
I'd say it's also part of the fun, right? It's also part of the fun.
If things were monotonous,
absolutely, you'd
boring,
be bored.
Oh my gosh,
yeah, right?
And, you don't have that next adrenaline rush.
Yeah, absolutely.
It'd be crazy.
Absolutely. So switching gears here a little bit, what role do you see AI playing in the future? Growth of the apparel industry?
Huge, absolutely huge.
Yeah.
Today we spend so much of time on prototyping, testing, trial and error. You wait for the supplier to send you fabrications, wait for this, wait for that. Versus with AI, just imagine how we can test something at lightning speed on the different avatars, assuming all those bodies I was talking about earlier, and not that
inclusive
one spec,
inclusive
fit in like lightning speed.
Yeah.
So I think with MAS is also doing or onboarding a lot of that work.
Yeah.
It will completely evolve and shape our industry in the future. So I think it has a huge part to play.
Yeah, that's exciting. All right. So if you could do or create something, a product, a system, anything, and with no barriers, its development, what would it be and why?
That's a dream come true.
I know.
So I would say doing a complete customized product, absolute customized product that could be recycled, elevated, reused throughout its entire life cycle, consumer's life cycle, right? Or consumer's lifelong.
Yeah.
And it could really tell the consumer's individual story.
Right.
So, zero landfill. That will help the individual to hold less inventory in the wardrobe.
Right.
I'm almost seeing this like the product is a canvas.
Yeah.
You can color it that month's flavor. right? That month's print that he or she wants. You can have it made into a tall garment, short garment, whatever coverage you want.
Wow.
So that would be the product that I would like to see being created if there were no boundaries and no restrictions as well.
All right. And how far away do you think we are from that? Because that sounds really exciting. I'm ready to pay money for it now.
I'm just going to show this, Reds, right?
Please.
So not too far. I think if we can't think of these things in our traditional form of textile and how we put garments together. So look at this piece of material. See the way it's stretching out.
Yeah.
And it just comes back to its original shape and form. This is coming from a really interesting industry as well, right?
Tell us more about it. Where is it coming from?
So it's from sex toys.
Yeah.
Right? All the sex toys in the market use this material. So we know it's skin compatible.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. No,
and that it could be worn absolutely next to skin. It will take shape, any shape and form to what he or she wants. You can dress yourself in any way. So we're trying to work with, other technologies to create different surfaces on this. And it's one material, right? It's just one material.
Wow.
So circularity becomes super easy as well. So, it's looking at certain other industries. What can we learn from it? How do you bring it into our industry and make it consumer right?
Can you maybe explain to us more about really the process that you follow in getting the products right for the customers?
So I'm going to start with maybe the idea generation part, Rad. So like I said, when we sit and talk and brainstorm and you have those big moments, right? We try and test it really fast just to validate that the idea works. And what we do is at that validation stage, we use an internal group to value test it for us.
Right.
Because we have to test to really say it validates our solution or the enabler, the tech enabler. You have to test it next to skin.
Right.
So we use a very quick trial testing. We also have certain questions that we kind of, want to work around and, get the answers to. Once that is done, then we do a little bit more fine-tuned prototype, right? Fine-tuned prototype that we show it to a brand.
Meaning it's a little closer to the final.
Absolutely, absolutely. So still at a very early concept stage.
Sure.
But it's articulated better than the original, right? It's not like pieces hanging and falling.
Right.
The first stage is almost looking a little bit like that because it's a quick test.
Sure.
So at Silueta, we do prototyping. Within like almost 6 to 7 days, we send out a sample to a brand. That's how quick of a round of sample roundings we do. So when the brand picks this idea and puts it into their product pipeline, so concept stage is tested.
Right.
Then we also get into something called a size set. So we do base sizes, which is your like the small, medium.
Right.
And then you do your entire size set. So when you do your size set again, we get a larger focus group. And the brand is also involved. So the brand will have their, maybe depending on your like buying, their loyalty cards. Right. They have a focus group that they bring in to test product again, right? We use that feedback as well. We use the feedback the IWT testing is done and then really fine-tune the product again. So then we take it to small in-store testing.
Right.
And the brand will have maybe 2 to 3 outlets, which is maybe their like hot merchandising moving outlets, and test the product. So we test it almost 3 to 4 times before we launch the product because we really want to get it consumer right.
Absolutely.
And that journey from idea creation to having IST, that's an in-store test,
right,
is maybe about a 12 months period.
Oh, wow.
And the launch hits, so when we finish off that and we go into the larger scale manufacturing, within 18 months, the product is out there in the market. So that's the entire process of how we kind of test, validate, take buyer feedback, fine-tune it, and then go into the big launches.
Right. And just to give the audience some context, when it comes to 18 months or a year, is that more of an accelerated process, or what was it like, say, 10, 20 years ago? You've been in the industry for a while. What was it like?
We've done products for 3-4 years as well, right?
Wow.
So those days, innovation was maybe, it took us 3 years to take a product out in the market.
Wow.
Today, it's 18 months.
Wow.
If the brand sees, the idea is an absolute firecracker,
right,
and there is such a void in it, they'll even take it to market within 8 to 12 months.
Okay, wow.
These are specifically bras,
right,
but if you take panties, underwears, men's boxes, much shorter lead time.
Got it. How do you really get product out there before any competition does?
So if we wait till everything falls into place and you have everything solved, we will never beat our competition, right? So it's about what is making the most amount of sense, and what really matters to the consumer.
Yeah.
If you have that right, let's not take it to a mature brand because their process is a little bit longer.
Right.
And what we're seeing is with digital brands, who is hungry for solutions, who will react much faster. What we do is we will take it to a digital brand, take it to the market really fast, test it, validate it, then we might take that to the mature brand. But we've already captured the market space.
Yeah.
So then the competition also at that time becomes more reactive to our solution, and they would do the versions later, but then still we beat them to the market in terms of timing.
Yeah. So one of the things that I've been curious about is how do you really build empathy? I'm sure you have men in your team. And if they don't have boobs and a vagina, how do you really build empathy among them?
So we try to bring them on board, educate them, and bring a correlation, right? So whatever we are trying to do whether it's male or for females, it's about support. It's about staying in place. It's about supporting volume, making it comfortable, making it breathable. So it's the same thing, and it's all next to skin. So if, for an example, we're talking about an edge of a garment which is digging, rolling, poking, all of that. Guys have it with their underwear as well, right? So we will always try, and even though it is not a men's boxer that we're designing it for, and it's for a bra, we bring in that correlation so they also understand the problem. And I do have a lot of guys in my team, a lot of engineers, and they're part of the trial fitting that I spoke about earlier. Yeah. So they get to see how it functions, how it fits on body, even though they don't physically wear the product, they really visually see the problem and see the solutions that they bring to the board as well in terms of the value add it creates.
And I would love for you to talk about some of the creative ways that men have gone about really empathizing with the female. We've heard about water balloons in bras. We don't have to mention names, but maybe even talk about some of the creative ways and how people have done that, because it's a serious problem, right? Often they say if a man had periods, we'll have many more solutions, many more innovations, right? And I think maybe if you can talk about that a little bit, even if it's another industry that's watching us, how important is it that men really are able to not be shameful about really approaching the subject matter, and really coming into it with creative solutions?
So, like I said, I have a lot of males in my team, and I've had some of the best bra ideas actually coming from them.
Right.
Purely through this experience, and I think they also become very open to talk to their wives, girlfriends, to understand some of these problems, right?
I'm not a creep, but I'm really working on it.
Really working on it. And today, when they're talking about a bra cup, you can see them touching their own chest and way to go.
Yeah.
Because they're in it, right? You can see that, that especially when they're even trying to describe the solution.
Yeah.
They're absolutely in it. So I think 25, 30 years ago to now, wow, what a change.
Right.
What a change.
Right.
I would also like to maybe touch on the fact that if men had periods, we would have more solutions. Maybe not, because they still don't understand the belly cramps that females go through. That's a tough one to teach, right?
Sure.
And the mood swings.
Yeah, for sure.
But
if they had it, they might have the belly cramps themselves.
If they have it, but if we can maybe give them those experiences,
for sure.
I think maybe. But I also think when it comes to innovation, I will never put a gender on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it just comes from
100%.
It's how your mind and soul is geared.
Absolutely. And well said. So Nadi, when it comes to innovation, obviously you've got a lot of experience, and if we do have young entrepreneurs listening in, innovation tends to have very polarizing views. If you're part of a big, massive organization like ourselves, or part of a small startup, how do you really rally people behind your idea, give direction? Please share some of your experiences of how you've done that.
So if I was working at a startup, I think it would be a lot easier because, it's a lot to go with, the gut and the passion and all of that. But when you're working for more mature organizations that's talking about profitability and all of that, and so it's slightly more different right then.
Yeah.
So today I work with heads of marketing, heads of finance, head of manufacturing. So when I want to really get the entire team to rally around an idea, I would individually go talk to them first, right? And then when you kind of bring them as a group, you have to show them the opportunity with the idea. You have to show the longevity of the idea.
Right.
And then you show the benefit for the organization. Because a finance guy is going to say, how are you going to make money for us?
Yeah.
The manufacturing head will say, is it scalable? Can we scale at profitability? Yeah. So the questions that they will all ask are completely different. Marketing would be, how do we really carve out a space for ourselves with that idea?
Right.
So it's important that you do the little individual conversations with each of them to make sure they are seeing the same vision of the idea, and then you bring all of them together. Right. So that is a little bit of more of an internal process to make sure that everyone believes in it, everyone is with you, and it's that same vision or drive as an organization that we have. If you take a more of a external view in terms of how do you get this idea to be bought by a brand, it's a story. Yeah. The story has to be strong. It can't be mediocre, because we all know, as much as we are working on an idea, there are so many other competitors of us that could be working on a similar idea, right? So what's the story that we're going to tell the brand and the consumer? Pricing, super important. Timing, super important. There have been so many times that we have just, taken back the idea because it's not market timing right.
Yeah.
And it picks up at some point. So
sure.
You should be able to read the market at the right time. So it is two different approaches you would take internally and externally, but that's how you do it. It's that story. Whichever way, story really matters, right? Story absolutely matters. And how you say it, how you articulate it, how you convince people. And it's almost like you're living it. You have to say it in a very convincing way for both parties, whether it's your internal organization or for the external brand. So
we have Nadi here today sharing with us her years of experience and knowledge about product and innovation. Nadi, it's been a pleasure chatting to you, and thank you so much for that.
Thanks, Raj. It's been amazing to be here. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for that as well. It's been a pleasure.